Hello and welcome to the next episode of Lucky These Stories. Um, I came to United States in '99, and as a first generation immigrant, first my 10 years of my life, just like any other generation of people when they move, work towards to try to establish themselves and try to bring food on the table, try to establish their life. So I'm no different. I did that. But as I started establishing myself, I realized myself like, how do I give back to the community for the America that has given me so much? And in this process, I was trying to think, how do I get myself involved? It took me almost another decade to figure things out. But one fine day, I was playing with my kids outside, and I I noticed a Lincoln car, which was from '90s, I believe, or maybe it's even older. And there was this gentleman driving through, stopped, looking at us, and says, and introduced himself, and said, "Have you voted? Have you made and vote for this election?" And I said, "No." And he said, and he gave me his card, and he said, "You should." And I said, "How do I get involved into the community?" And the next thing I know that he gave me an appointment, and I met him at the diner, and his name is John Anglis. And today, that individual who actually I call him as someone who has been in the community service for almost 60 years and have contributed so much to the society. And one thing that I personally believe that he's not only the mentor for me, but he's a mentor to many youngsters who have actually thrived to become what they want to. And so the short story, when I met him at the diner, and the first thing he said, what you need to do is you need to actually, he said, you need to actually um, read the charter before you want to get into be involved. So this is a charter he gave me, and I'm keeping that as a souvenir. I have a coffee drops on it, so this is the old charter. So I have an honor today to introduce John Anglis, who has been the Board of Aldermen president, and he has been involved into many other activities and contribution to the society. So what we will do in this episode, we will try to understand his journey from where he started 60 years ago and what inspires him to continue to do what he does at the age of 93. And yes, you heard it right, 93. He's very active. I picked him up from his home today. While I was driving, he was already on the call talking about the strategies for things that he's trying to figure out for the next move that he's trying to work through in the community. So he's so very active at age of 93. And I think this is his first podcast, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes,
So without any further ado, I will introduce John Anglis to our show, Lucky These Stories. Welcome to our show.
thank you very much. Okay. Proud and pleased to be here. It is my first podcast. It's all new to me, and of course, everything technology-wise is new to me, and I'm always trying to catch up. You young people are so far ahead of me that it's like crawling, creeping, and grabbing and trying to climb to understand everything. But we'll get there. We just have to keep.
Well,
trying.
at least you have that tribe that you want to connect to the young crowd.
Right.
That's a big thing. So John, what I would like to, as I was telling in the introduction, like I would like to understand your journey, where you started, and what continues to unfold in the years to come, and what were some of the challenges that you experienced, but yet you were still able to do. Because when I listen to you in the party which I'm involved, I see that whatever you talk, people listen. Even at the age of 93, when you talk, everybody's silent. So what I want to understand in this episode, and I was telling you that you'll be surprised, some of the viewers that I have are from my kids' school. They are in the age between 12 and 17. So I want to touch to the basics. What is Board of Aldermen? And what does the functionality of this Board of Aldermen does on a day-to-day basis? And what are the things that you experience that you bring it to the mayor and how you get those things resolved on a day-to-day basis. And the second part, which I would like to understand, is what are other things that you do outside? Because one of the things that you were telling me while I was driving you, that you actually try to recruit people, which is the big thing. Like, you recruit, and I asked you why, and you said this is something that I would like to bring this torch forward, because nobody's here on this planet forever. So how do you bring those recruiting and bring it forward to the next generation? So I know I put two questions.
Well, first of all, I think you got to start where I started. Many years ago, I came to Shelton in 1967 after a career in the military and going to college and everything else. And I was ready to settle down. And I decided if I was coming to Shelton, I picked Shelton because Shelton had a good reputation for good schools. And I had 2 young children, and Shelton had a good reputation for keeping their taxes low. So that's what attracted me to Shelton, and I came, and of course I grew up in Derby, which is the next town over. So it was natural, it was like coming home. And I decided if I was coming home, then I was going to get involved, and I was going to do what I could do to help Shelton become even better. So that's what got me started. And when I moved into town in 1967, those were the years when I was most active in my youth in sporting clays and shooting, trap shooting and stuff like this, and hunting and fishing and all that. And the other party at the time, the Democrats, were trying to take my guns away from me. And I didn't do anything wrong. I never, I was a good citizen. I was a good person. I thought I was. And I couldn't understand it. So I contacted Jim Connery, who was the state representative at the time. And I said, look, whatever.
From Shelton?
Shelton. Whatever I can do to support you and to help to hold on to our guns and do the things that we do that are recreational. I mean, that's what I wanted to do, and that's how I got involved. And I went from being involved at that level to getting involved with the Republican Town Committee in Shelton, and ultimately, quickly, becoming the chairman of the town committee. In those days, there was an inter-party struggle between the progressive Republicans and the Little Elephants, and the party was not seeing eye to eye, and it needed somebody to pull them together. So, and I'm not saying I was the only one, but I was one of the people, me, Dick Belden, and others, that brought the party together.
So if I may interrupt, when you say progressive, Republican, and Elephant, what is the difference?
Well, there were 2 groups, and they were fighting each other within the party. They were. One wanted to have this office, and the other didn't want it. They were going no place. It was just, you can't fight. You got to get together, and you got to have a common goal, and somebody had to bring this together. And there was the progressive Republicans thought they were right, and the Little Elephants thought they were right. Well, we finally sat down in the same room and thrashed it out and said, look, we're going no place. I mean, we're doing our community no service by fighting among ourselves. So we decided to put the fighting down and get ourselves together and share and serve together and be compatible. And then we started to make progress. And then people recognized that our ideas and that our concepts were good, and they supported us and they elected us. And we had some real good people. Vin Tizzy, Frank Cece. I mean, once they all got together and worked in the same direction and not fought each other, then then we started to make progress. And so that put us all together, and it was a different party.
So that was your first achievement, so to speak, when it comes to
it wasn't mine only. It was I
the
was part of it.
Part of it.
I was part of it.
And back then there was a thing called Board of Aldermen, or no?
Yes, there was. The city charter was in effect. Yes, there was always a Board of Aldermen. The Board of Aldermen is primarily, it's the legislative and the fiscal authority of the city. The example, the Board of Aldermen, the state legislature a few years back legislated that all towns of population 25,000 or more shall have a fair rent commission. And we took that legislation and we passed an ordinance. That's the legislative part of the alderman. We passed an ordinance saying that Shelton will have a fair rent commission. Then we had to go out and recruit the people to serve on that fair rent commission. And the state legislation provides that there shall be minority representation. So you don't have it all from one party. And so we recruited the people, we put them in place, that we brought in the state people to help train, and you were one of the recruits, and it was amazing. To me, it's amazing to see your development as from recruit status to vice president of the Fair Rent Commission.
Yeah, thanks to you. And that's, I think I want to touch on to that point, that when you say about the recruit, but before I touch on the recruit part, I want to go back. When we have a viewers who are between the age of 12 and 17. Yeah. This was new, like 3 years ago. I didn't know much about Board of Aldermen. And there are certain towns where the Board of Aldermen doesn't exist, but there are thing called council. So can you throw some lights on what is the Board of Aldermen and what's the difference between the cities who don't have a Board of Aldermen, and what is the functionality other than just recruiting? Like, what is the day-to-day life for the Board of Aldermen?
Okay, the Board of Aldermen, I don't know how to answer that. First of all, the charter, each town has a charter. And you organize your town by charter.
Yeah, this
and
is a charter from
is
Shelton.
approved by the people, and it can only be changed by the people in the municipality. So every change in that charter says, look, this is how you'll run your town. This is who does what, and you follow it. And if you want to change it, you have to go back to the people, and the people have to approve it. So some municipalities have a charter with a Board of Aldermen, and some have a charter with the First Selectman. A First Selectman, like Seymour, has a First Selectman. So you have the First Selectman, the second, I think you have two other selectmen on there, and the three selectmen run the town. They're like the legislative body, and they're like the fiscal authority, etc. We break it up in our town so that the aldermen are the legislative authority and the fiscal authority. There's 8 aldermen, two from each ward. There's 4 wards in our town, 2 from each ward, and they're elected every 2 years. And we set the annual budget, which is very important. We determine how much money the Board of Education is going to get to spend and how much each department's going to get to spend. And we kind of oversee capital spending, so make sure all our buildings are kept up and our roads. We spend a lot of money on roads every year.
So when I see it from outside, the first thing comes is the mayor. Mayor is the authority where he does all the approvals, and he's the one who works through the budgeting and all that. So how does the mayor come in this equation?
Okay, the mayor is the chief administrative officer of the city per the charter.
Okay.
And all his duties are outlined in the charter. All his duties and his responsibilities, who he's able to appoint and everything. All the appointments are not all made by the Board of Aldermen. The appointments are made by the mayor and the Board of Aldermen. Now, for instance, the Fair Rent Commission, the statutory authority is given to the Board of Aldermen to make the appointments. In some other cases, the statutory authority is given to the mayor, and it works out fine. Now, the mayor will the charter, I should say, outlines the process for setting the budget, step by step. So everything is outlined. That charter is the most important document anybody getting involved in our government has to follow.
And
has
I
to
feel like
learn.
I'm back in those days 2 years ago when in the diner. This
Yes.
is exactly what you told me.
That's exactly what I did. First, they gave you a charter and said, read this because you have to know what the charter says because that's the governing document. And so you read that, and you then started to put some time into it, and next thing you know, you evolve as the vice chairman of the commission. And that I might say, I just want to get in a plug for the commission. I just think I'm so proud of the Fair Rent Commission because you are doing an outstanding service for the renters in our municipality.
Thank you.
Before you came along, renters had no say. People, when owners, I don't know what you call them, the owners of the property rented to somebody, uh,
Landlords.
there could be code violations, but there was nothing in place to enforce that. Now imagine you're charging somebody, say 1,000, 2,000, whatever it is per month rent, and the water doesn't work. Come on, the water doesn't work. There's got to be some muscle there. Somebody's got to be. That's what your commission does. That's outstanding, and some of the things have been just eye openers. I mean, when the owners of these residents don't do their job and don't meet the code, you have a way of enforcing it, and you do.
Yes, and we just resolved the case which was lingering for almost 11 months.
All right.
We just rectified that, and we just feel, but I have to tell you that we have an amazing team. It's just
Oh,
not me. The entire,
so proud of that group.
That group has been tremendously great and helpful, and we all work together.
Yep.
And I was telling you while I was driving, I think the other teams should actually take this as an example that we are from a different line of business, we
Yeah.
are from a different line of thoughts, but yet when it comes to the Fair Renting Commission, we all have a same goal and same
Yep.
vision.
And you achieve results.
Yes, yes.
Example of the results. When the out of town, out of state owners of property don't comply with our regulations, you have a way of enforcing it, and you bring them to the table and you make them do. You have reduced the rent to $1 a month until they do it.
Yes, we did this
and
for
believe
almost.
me, that gets their attention.
It did, and I think I would also add, more than enforcing, I feel like it was more of an education.
Yeah.
Because most people don't know what this body does, and we have a vested power from state government.
Yep.
Where we can enforce through an education to say these are the 13 codes that needs to be followed in order for you to get through where you
So
need to.
these are the kind of things that keep me going. These are the kind of things that make me feel that I've accomplished something. I've put in place, my role in this matter was to bring this bring it to the Board of Aldermen, to develop the ordinance, to get the ordinance passed, to recruit you people, to get you all in there, to get you trained, and it happened. That is a tremendous accomplishment. It wasn't it wasn't me exactly, but I had a role in it. Okay, and my role satisfies my need to satisfy what I'm doing for the community.
Yeah, so see, John, this is where I feel like you're 93-year-old, and the energy that you have that keeps you going.
Yeah.
Not many people can sustain that at this age. So
Yeah.
you're blessed with what you have.
You aren't kidding.
Yeah. So now you've been on the Board of Aldermen for how long?
Since 1991.
See, now from 1991, every 2 years you have to run for an election.
Yes.
You have to go out. You have to go door to door. You have to write letters. You have to raise
I have
certain
to
money.
ask people for their vote. After people have to judge me
Yes.
and say, you deserve to be there or you don't deserve to be there.
And from 91, you are continuously being on the Board of Aldermen, right?
Right.
Every 2 years you have to fight. It's not an easy thing.
And I want to say this, brings to mind a thought. There have been so many people over the years that have served and no longer with us, and they deserve a lot of credit. I mean, they have been on the Board of Aldermen. I'd name a couple, just if I can throw a couple names out. Stan from the Second Ward.
Yeah, I remember that name.
Stanley, what's Stanley's last name?
I don't know, but I remember. I recall that
Ken
name.
Olin from the Fourth Ward. There's so many. I mean, I would leave somebody out if I try to name them all. But there's so many good people that have served and come and gone and no longer with us. But they left their mark. Another thing that is outstanding, I think, things that over the years that I've been involved with. The Veterans Memorial Committee downtown. The mayor had such a influential role in getting this started. The mayor's father was an Iwo Jima veteran, and the mayor is 100% pro veterans. Believe me, and he wanted the development of the Veterans Memorial Park to include a river walk, his vision. And that river walk, he wanted to be an educational tour for the youth, for the people, new people coming to town, what Shelton is all about. And so we honor our veterans, first and foremost, and we've done some magnificent things down there with QR codes and stuff like this to explain the background, the monuments that we've put up to each war, and honoring those veterans from Shelton that lost their lives during those wars.
And they did a great job because the firework happens by that water, right?
Yeah.
The fireworks, July 4th
right,
of July?
Right.
It's a very good park.
Yeah, that's a Veterans Memorial Park. Yeah. And we got the Riverwalk, and the extension of the Riverwalk is going to include an education history. And the Shelton public schools are involved. The Shelton public schools are part of they help us develop the history and the QR code and what the background, what's written in there. And it's just a community effort. And the Veterans Memorial Group meets like once a month, and they plan out what they're doing for the year, and that's just a very rewarding experience. Everything we do comes back in a positive way to bless Shelton as
Shelton has come a long way.
One more positive accomplishment.
Yes, Shelton. When I moved in 2012, it was one of the best town that I found to live from the taxes perspective, and I think in last 10 years the Shelton has grown amazingly good. Shelton has created a name.
Shelton school system. I want to give a kudo to the superintendent, Ken Saranich, who last year, in conjunction with the mayor and the Board of Aldermen and the Board of Education, Ken led the set up to bring to expand our service to special education needs by bringing special education students back into Shelton to get their education. We, under the special education program, these students they can go, if we don't offer the services, they must go to where the services are performed. And that constitutes sending them to places like Middletown, where they have to be transported up and back. And they get their learning. he brought it in house, and he's building that, and that is a positive thing for the student themselves and their family to get their educational needs met in our community, and it's just amazing. Now, what's happening this year, right now as we speak, the Connecticut legislature is discussing special education needs. And this is so important, so important. Connecticut has made the special education law, but they haven't funded it totally. And you can't put that on the backs of the municipality, because the municipality has no way of determining in advance and budgeting for our total special education needs. So as a result, we incur a deficit, a budget deficit because of this. And that deficit has been like 1.3 million in last year and the year before. You get a budget deficit of 1.3 million, and the school system has no way of paying for it. The municipality has no way of budgeting it. So what they have to do, the educators have to do, is the education system has to do, is to take it out of next year's funding, which means laying off teachers. No way. That doesn't work.
So is that where the Board of Aldermen comes in, and they have a ability to stop that from happening?
Yeah, what we did was what the Board of Aldermen did was we recognized this and we funded it. What we did was, yes, we raised the taxes, yes, but this is when you're dealt a mandate from the state that you have to do it, and you have no other way of doing it, you're forced to fund it. You don't have a choice. So we had to raise taxes. We don't want to do that, but that's what. So Ken said, okay, what we'll do is we'll build. You help us, give us the funding to build up the portable classrooms up at the Perry Hill School, and we'll supply the teachers and the special education teachers, and we'll bring students back in here where they'll get a better education, where they won't spend 2 hours on the road in transportation, where they'll have the same teachers, same people. It's like being home.
Right.
It's wonderful, and I commend him.
Yeah,
I commend him.
Yeah. So coming back to the point, thank you for that insight. Coming back to the point about the Board of Aldermen, right? I'm very intrigued with that thought process that every 2 years you have to go for an election, and you have been elected from 1991, every 2 years.
Yep.
Does it come to you as a second nature, or do you still feel as if you were running for the first time in 1991?
No, I just look. I run on the basis always. My decisions are always made on the basis of, is this the right thing to do for Shelton? And if I answer that question in my mind and I make the decisions that it's the best thing to do for Shelton, then the people are going to recognize it, and the people are going to say, we'll re-elect John, or we won't. And if they don't, they don't. I mean, I take whatever the people decide.
But so people are aware about your capabilities and what you have contributed to the community, right? So that's why perhaps they are considering you since 1991. And I see this. I started a party like 3-4 years ago, and I see how much you are respected within the party. And outside the party, when I speak about your name, people are aware about your name. People know what you do. And one of the commendable thing, and I really want to highlight, is we did a fundraising at my home, if you recall, last year for the food pantry.
Yep.
And I remember I called you and I said, John, we are doing something. Would you be open to come? Without a second or a hesitant, you said yes. And you were the first one to come, actually.
Yeah.
And that is very commendable, and it is very inspiring to see somebody at your age is willing to go above and beyond than what anybody else would do. I want to touch on the recruiting part. It is very interesting to see, and it's also because you recruited me in a way, and I see you as my mentor. Um, when you go and recruit, how do you judge that individual that this is going to be doing what he's supposed to do? What is that judgment call? Like, how do you
Okay.
define that individual that, okay, this person is going to benefit and contribute and align with the party that you're associated to?
Okay. Uh, um, I give everybody the benefit of the doubt. I don't judge people. I look for people who are willing to get involved and to understand the charter, what has to be done, what we are required to do, whether you're a Democrat or a Republican. If you are elected, this is what you're required to do, what's in the charter. And this is your duty. So I don't judge people and say, you must do it my way or you must do it our way. No, no. These are the things we stand for. We're conservative. We don't want to spend money we don't have to spend. We want to provide the services that are necessary. We provide services above and beyond that some other communities do not provide, like garbage collection and things like this.
And if it's just so that for the viewers, if you, I don't know if you're aware, but when I go to other towns and talk to my friends, I think city of Shelton is the place in the neighboring towns where we don't get charged for the garbage.
Right.
Other towns they get charged for the
You go to
garbage.
the transfer station, our transfer station, you don't get charged.
You don't get charged.
No.
And the taxes are low.
You
If
go to and you go to Seymour, or you go to some other communities, and I'm not picking on Seymour, but it's just the way it is. They do charge at the transfer station. My son has to pay so much a truckload every time he goes. So
Yeah.
I mean, these are things
So
we have. For instance, the other day, I got a call from somebody that said, does Shelton provide sand? There's ice under my driveway. Yes, we do. I called her back and said, it's down at the city yard. As you go in the city yard, right on the left-hand side as you enter, there's a whole pile of sand. Help yourself.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So you can just go.
Yeah, certainly. Yeah,
Well-
you take a pail or whatever you want and fill it up, and God bless you.
Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Yeah,
Interesting.
those are the little things that
Nice.
there's little services and there's big services. I mean, the little services like the sand, the big services like adopting a budget.
So John, I have a question. Things like what you just told about the sand and the things about the transfer, dumpsters and all that stuff. Where can, in a city of Shelton, if somebody is new to the town, how do they get this information? Like, I don't think I knew this about the sand. I've been there since 2012. So what are we doing as a community to give this kind of messages out there so that people can benefit? Because all I hear when people are not happy that this is wrong, but they don't talk about the good things like what you just said is happening. Like, aren't we doing something so that the good messages like this goes out?
The city has a website. I'm not. I must confess, I'm not an ardent user of the website. I'm not a. Technology and I are. While I recognize the need and the absolute role that technology plays, and I'm 100% in favor of building more technology, but that carries the message out to the people what's available where, and that's today's way of doing things, today's way of communicating. We have some handwritten papers and notices that are in City Hall, but not everybody goes to City Hall. So you have to have a way to access it. And all you have to do is Google it, and you probably will find the answer.
And thank you. And so let me ask you this. So in your Board of Aldermen, so let's say I'm new to the town and I see something not going well. is that something I can write a letter to the mayor's office, or I go to the Board of Aldermen?
Well,
Because I heard you mention initially that you are the legislative authority, right?
Yeah,
Right. So would that come to you, or should that go to the mayor?
depends what it is. Depends what it is.
So what? So let me ask a question differently then. What is the Board of Aldermen can support if there is a need for a citizen that they see something not according to the way they think it is?
Well, if it's an administrative service provided by the mayor's office, call the mayor's office.
Okay.
I mean, that's the first place to start.
Okay.
And the mayor will look into it, or assign somebody to look into it, because he has administrative departments. For instance, if it has to do with your assessment of taxes, he has an assessor's office to look at.
So he will direct it to them.
Yeah, and he will direct it to them, and that's the person that should be.
So maybe then I'll ask this. So let's say I move to Shelton, and I read this charter, and I see this thing as a citizen. I don't think this is the right one, and I wanna bring it to an attention and talk through this. Do I have, as a citizen, right to go?
You can always call your alderman and discuss it. That's
So
the
alderman
first
is the first place.
First
If you
place to
wanna
start.
if you wanna start with
Yeah.
anything you wanna change in the
I'll
charter.
give you an example.
Okay.
A gentleman called me a few weeks back and said, "John, you're the alderman in my ward." Well, guess what? I wasn't in his ward. I wasn't his alderman. I used to be. I used to have that.
Ward
So-
2, right?
Yeah,
You're Ward 2.
He was in the fourth ward,
Okay.
and he said, "I'm a retired lieutenant colonel from the Air Force. I'm also retired from an airline that I worked at." And he says, "And I've just retired and I'm looking for something to do." He says, "I moved to Shelton because I think it's a community that fits my needs." He said, "I want to get involved. I want to help. I want to contribute. How can you help me?" I said, "Well, I'm not your alderman. So the first thing I can do is to refer you to your alderman. But I'm not going to let you go because I see some needs and things that you can do." And an example of that is if appointments to commissions, appointments to various bodies that are appointed by the alderman. And he has a considerable background. He's mature. He's able to contribute without much training. We need people like that. And what I've got in mind is we're in the process now, the aldermen are in the process now of working with the mayor's office and working with the state and about violations of people violating the school bus stops. When the school bus stops to let kids off, people are passing the buses.
But isn't there a fine for that?
No, well, there is, but it's difficult to do because the bus driver can't record everything and prove it. He can't do that. So there's Bridgeport has just adopted a contract with a place called what's it called now? This is where the aides the memory. Well,
That's okay. Yeah.
That's where the memory. It's bus patrol. That's called bus patrol, and we're looking into that. We're looking into that because, look, we don't want an accident to happen to one child. We want to prevent it. We don't want it. We're absolutely. If our bus drivers are telling us that we have multiple infractions daily, we've got to do something about it. So we're looking into this, and if we decide to go this way, we're going to need people who are going to adjudicate the issues. Well, if a summons is issued that somebody passed the bus, we have to have a hearing officer to hear their complaint, to hear their objection to the summons. So this is the kind of guy, mature, experienced, that would fit right in. So I got him in mind for that. That's the purpose.
Good. So So I just want to, so when you also mentioned in the conversation earlier that, you also work on a budget. So you have a planning and zoning, you have an
Right.
education. So when the budget comes in, you are the liaison between the, the
Departments.
departments and the mayor,
When the
right?
budget, the departments submit their budget to the mayor.
But it goes through you.
Yeah, it goes. We're the fiscal authority. We're the final say on the budget.
Budget. So
The
first
alderman.
it comes to you, you looks at it, and then it goes to
It goes to
the mayor for a
It
signature.
goes to no. It goes to the mayor from the departments. Then the mayor sends it in joint meeting to the alderman and the Board of Apportionment and Taxation.
Okay.
Board of Apportionment and Taxation is 3 members, consists of 3 members from each party. 3 members from the Democrat Party, 3 members from the Republican Party. They have a role in the budget process per the charter, and they make a recommendation to the aldermen based on what they hear and what they see.
Okay.
And the aldermen are the final fiscal authority and make the final decision.
Okay, but so the mayor does have any say in saying that this budget should go back?
He does.
He does.
He does. He can veto our budget.
I see.
And
Do
he
you
did.
experience in
He
your
did last year.
and
He did last year.
so how do you navigate
We
through that?
overrode his veto.
So the charter says you
Yes.
can override
Yes.
his veto.
Everything you have to know the charter. You have to know the charter. You have to. you
Yeah,
have to-
I'm aware. I'm just bringing this up so
Yep.
that the viewers understand. So
So what we did last year, we were see, medical costs are rising out of control, and we were running big deficits on the Board of Education, medical, and city medical. So the Board of Aldermen put in place a reserve account to deal with that. We didn't assign it. We put it in a reserve, and we put it under the control of the mayor so he could use it, and he did. He used it wisely. He used it wisely, and he has subsequently, in conjunction with the Board of Education, they have switched over and made an adjustment and come up with a. I think they've changed the from I think Cigna is now. I don't know. I wasn't involved in it, but I think they're now managing our program. They didn't change the program, but they changed the administrator of the program, and they changed the advisor to the program, and now we're starting to see some of the charges stabilizing, so we can deal with it.
So, do you also experience when the budget comes out and you are basically working with the mayor and the department to get that budget approved? Is that budget, when it comes out, is it open to the public and public have a say in it
There's
when the budget is out?
There's a
Within the
yes,
process of getting it approved.
right.
So, if I am from your ward and I see there is a concern to that budget, I can knock your door and say, I don't think it's right. But then in that process, you're not only the liaison between the department and the mayor, but you're also a liaison between the citizen,
Yeah.
department, and the mayor. Am I correct?
The charter, you're right. The charter requires the Board of Aldermen to hold a public hearing on the budget. And we do. That's part of the process. We do. So public input is important, and it's.
Do you see a lot of participation? Or people are
It
uneducated,
de-
or
it-
they are not aware?
it
No, I won't use the
depends.
word uneducated.
It depends. Some years are different than others. If there's an outstanding need on the education side, so many citizens will get together and come and voice their opinions. Sometimes those public hearings on the budget last from like 7 o'clock to 11 o'clock, and the comments that people make to us, sometimes they're very critical of the Board of Aldermen. Sometimes they're very critical. They just want to get what they want, and they'll do and say what they have to say, and to get our attention. But that's true of
Any public
of
service.
any public hearing at any level, state level or anywhere. So the public is involved, though, and the public does have, but the aldermen have the final say. And then And then if the public doesn't like what we did, they can vote us out of office. And every 2 years they get that opportunity.
Wow. This is a true democratic process, in my opinion.
It's a representative process.
It is okay.
It's a representative process. We represent the views. We represent our people. And if we don't do what the people say or suggest, we better have a good reason for it. And we generally do, and generally give our reasons. We don't.
People support you since '91. I mean, you're doing what You're up to the par.
Yeah.
I mean, we can go on this. I know that we have a limited time, but there is one thing. What is next? How long? I mean, how long you continue to, like 93? Like you're gonna continue to do this as long as you can?
I've taken the position as long as I'm healthy, as long as I'm physically and mentally able. I'll do it. I got nothing else to do. As long as the people want me, I'll continue. If they don't want me, they can vote me out.
Well, I think people want to. I mean, the city is doing great.
It's up to them.
So what do you think? I mean, I'm not going into the current affairs of the way the country is going. That's not my intention to bring this up. But you being in the public service for almost 50 years, do you think the country is going in the right direction? Not just the city of Shelton, like beyond city of Shelton. How do you see? Because you have tremendous experience. You have seen so many presidencies. You were born in 1931, right after the Great Depression. You have seen the Second World War and so on. And you have seen the flourishment of America and where we are today, technology-wise and everything. How do you see you being in the public service and the community service for 50, 60? How do you see the country today? Do you think we are going in the right direction on a global platform?
I think the opinion of the majority in the country, as evidenced by the recent election, indicates that we weren't going in the right direction and they wanted a course change. I remember, and I've had the good fortune to be a delegate to the 1980 National Republican Convention, and
Which year was it? I'm sorry.
To the 1980 Republican Convention.
Oh, that was Joe Reagan time?
That was Reagan.
Nice.
Reagan ran for the nomination against Bush Sr. And I supported Reagan, and I was very close to Reagan. I spoke with Reagan. Reagan called me. He called my house. And
the same house where I picked you up from?
Yep. He called my house, and my wife at the time, my wife is deceased now, but my wife answered the phone, and when he told her, this is Ronald Reagan. Well, of course, when she learned that, I wasn't at home, and she was trying to tell him that I wasn't home. She was so excited, and he said, "Well, tell John I'll call him back tonight at 11:15 p.m. your time." And so when I got home, my wife was all excited, and she said, Ronald Reagan called, and he's going to call back at 11:15. You better be here. And I said, okay, if he wants me, I'll be here. So he called back at 11:15. We had a nice long conversation. And then when I went out to Detroit to the convention, we got to talk to him again. And he was a gentleman, and he was much the same as Trump in many ways, because he was a people person. He would talk to you. He would talk to every individual counted, every person, counted, and he wanted to hear what you had to say. And he wasn't afraid to get things done. So I think Trump is the country has said, yes, Mr. Trump, you are the guy for the time. You have to make these course changes. You have to make America great again. And we are giving you that opportunity, and I welcome it wholeheartedly.
Good. So I have to tell you this. I read I was watching a YouTube clip of John Reagan, President Reagan, and Ronald Reagan. Sorry, my mistake. And there was a YouTube clip, and he said very beautifully. He said, "You go to America, you go to German, live there. You go to Germany, you live there. You can never be a German. You go and live in Australia, you can never be an Australian. You can go live in any other country. You cannot become. You can become a citizen, but you are not called upon as a German or Australian or whatnot. But if you come to America, you live here and you become an American.
Right.
That's the beauty of America.
Right.
And I genuinely believe that. I think that's
yes.
that's the best part. And this country has given me so much that I can't thank enough. And this is a great example. I came in '99, 3 years back. I met you. I wanted to get involved. You helped me out. You put that hand to me. Who knew 3 years later I'll be sitting with you. Yeah. I will be talking to you and understand. Only in America. I think it's very amazing.
And not only you, my background, my family, we all are immigrants. We all are displaced. We came over here. We found a new life. And America's great.
It's amazing. It's amazing. So, I only have a good faith in the way this country is going. And I think it's going to be continue to be on a global platform as a leader. People like you who have been serving to the community and helping to shape on a ground level at the community level only helps and leads to where the country is heading. Most important, people like you who are also willing to recruit and also give the new people an opportunity to do what they are supposed to do, what you guys did. That is also very commendable.
My job is to recruit you, to teach you, to give you the information you need to know to be an effective counselor for the community.
Yes.
And I have found that everybody that I've run into and asked is willing and able to serve. And I don't judge their commitment. They have to make their own decisions. They have to learn their own way and read what the public wants. And I mean, look at another group of people that in our community that deserve recognition. Planning and zoning.
Yeah, Jenny, she's an amazing.
Planning and zoning, the entire commission of planning and zoning. They've got the busiest schedule in town. Everything is subject to litigation that they do, and the community is never satisfied with their decisions. But yet their decisions are made on the best interest of
the community
of the planning. Yeah. We do a plan of development every 10 years. And the community approves that plan of development. And that plan of development then serves as a guide to our growth. Now when the state interferes with our local rule, and they come in and try to tell us how to manage the growth of our community, they are off base. And this 830G law, Section 830G, that allows for this housing, that gives the developers the right to bring multiple housing in. It's a cash cow. They bring it in and they make a lot of money on it, and who knows 2 years from now if they'll be here or where they'll be, and they'll sell it and how it's going to be managed.
No, it's commendable the way they have been.
That's why I'm glad we've got our Fair Rent Commission in place.
Yeah.
You guys are going to be taxed to manage their fair housing and how they.
Yeah. So,
but another example of that one is 2 Mohawk Drive. It's a 3/4 of 1 acre. They're putting 40 apartments on 3/4 of 1 acre. They're causing congestion in a.
Is it off exit 11? Is it off exit 11 of Route 8?
No, it's in Pine Rock Park.
Okay.
It's right at the southern end of Long Hill Avenue, Mohawk Drive.
Okay.
It's right there, and it's congestion. 40 houses on 3/4, not even 1 acre, 3/4 of 1 acre. It's an abomination. and yet it's in court now because we won't accept mediation.
Understood.
Planning and zoning has not accepted mediation. That's okay. But
No, but I know a
but
lot
they
of
may be forced upon us, and if it does, it's going to be a critical change in what our citizens who are already living there have agreed to. Pine Rock Park is already congested. It's on small lots.
No, I know. The planning and zoning has a lot. A lot of people say that they have a lot of tough job when it comes to they're continuously. I asked Jenny. I said, would you be open to come to the podcast so that people can understand what you do? So we'll see how far it goes.
Yeah.
But I just want to, we can go on this, but I want to end this with one last question. If you have a magic wand, what is one thing you would change? Or what would you try to make things happen that is not happening within your legislative power or something like that? What is that one thing that comes to your mind?
Well, the unfortunate thing is that the state, we exist only locally, only because the state allows us to exist. The state is the empowering force. They can pass legislation that we have to follow, and they do. And sometimes we think that's good, and sometimes we think that's bad. We have municipalities. All 169 Connecticut municipalities belong to an organization called CCM, Connecticut Council of Municipalities. And we through that, we try to influence what's happening in the state. But sometimes that influence is good, and sometimes it works, and sometimes it doesn't. I don't know. I think we're subject. We don't have the authority to do the things that we like to do and institute what we'd like to see done. So if you have some good ideas, it's still got to meet with the state's got to allow it.
So that's something you wish for, and that magic. Okay, cool.
I mean,
yeah, it's a long way. We'll get there. But this is so amazing. I really had a good time talking to you and learning more than what I knew today from you. And I hope the viewers of certain ages, which I think I'm trying to bring this to their attention, is from age 12 to 17. I hope you get to enjoy this Lucky These Stories episode with John Anglis, the president of the Board of Aldermen, who is 93-year-old and being serving every 2 years election from 1991. Thank you, Mr. John.
Okay,
Sorry,
you're welcome.
You were saying something?
I was going to say that to reach out to the youth in our community and everybody in the community. We want you to be part of our government. We welcome you. And call me, contact me. I'll help you get started.
Can I put your what is the reference I can put in my podcast if I want to have them contact you?
Give them my email address.
Okay, I'll put an email address so that in case if anybody is listening to this and if they want to serve in the community, John can help you. And if he's not the right person, he will direct you to the right person.
Right, exactly.
Thank you, Mr.
Okay,
John.
thank you.
I truly appreciate it.
Thank you.